It's Tom Dillon, the Lifetime Liberal, and today is Wednesday, April 6, 2016. The title of this rant will be President Cruz, President Sanders. I don't think so. So both Cruz and Sanders won very convincingly last night in Wisconsin. Trump showed that he has about this much basic knowledge of any single political category that's important to anybody. He has nothing beneath the surface in that he throws out rash, brash, crass insinuations and has nothing to back it up with. And I'm going to start thinking he's going to really have to control himself. And I think that the reporters hopefully will be going after him much more to clarify his positions and won't accept, some of his happy horse crap. But getting back to Cruz. So Cruz won. He will not be able to get enough delegates to win in the first round. The whole concept of him doing it right now is to get enough delegates so that Trump doesn't win in the first round or the first round of at the convention. And will there be subsequent votes to determine who will be the presidential candidate? And they have already started the backdoor delegate vote buying aspect of it all. So if we go to the convention and Trump is not the nominee because he doesn't have 1237, let's remember something else. That the way the Republican apparatus seems to be working right now is that if he has 1237, there's really nothing they can do. But if he only has 1236, that's fair game to deny him the nomination and to free the delegates after the first ballot and get rid of them. But then comes who would be voted for in the second ballot. Would it be Cruz? Like I said, they're already starting the horse trading. They're already starting the bribes. They're already starting everything that goes on behind the scenes that isn't talked about a whole lot as to how to keep Trump out. And the talk right now is that possibly since you got to remember, a lot of these delegates who are going to be voting at the convention, we don't even know who they are yet because we know who some of them are in each state, but others in each state, we don't know who they are. And that you get to be a delegate because you've been in the Republican Party and you've been part of that team for a long time. So let's say, you're my age, a little bit younger. You've had some modest success in the Republican Party, whatever you've been doing in whatever state. You've done a lot of behind the scenes. You've done a lot of get out the votes. You've bundled money. Maybe you've held a state office, something like that. You're a hardcore Republican. You espouse to the Republican points of view. You espouse to the party platform. Trump doesn't follow that at all. And remember, Cruz came into Washington saying he was against Washington and rightfully pissed off every single, or virtually every single contemporary of his in the Senate, and might have had a following in the House because he led the Tea Party revolt when the government was shut down. It was 2013. But that didn't help the Republican image at all, and it will play a lot worse in 2016 than it did in 2014, where, again, the vast majority of Democrats did not come out to vote. That will not happen in 2016. So Cruz has shown that he can win. We'll see what happens in New York because that's Trump's territory. Will Trump be able to act presidential? Will Trump be able to show some depth of knowledge of different subjects, whether it be the economy, whether it be welfare, whether it be abortion, whether it be foreign affairs, whether it be the minimum wage, any global climate change, all of these types of things he's going to have to show sincere knowledge about, as opposed to just throwing out these brash statements about building a wall. And then, if not, we got Cruz. he won't have enough delegates, and will it end up being what they're saying right now, possibly Paul Ryan as being the nominee, because they won't be able to decide between those two, and everyone else in the Republican Party who they might nominate, let's say, they're not going to go for Jeb Bush, they're not going to go for Candy Rice, they're not going to go for Colin Powell. There's no one really, they're not going to go for Dick Cheney. So there's no one really else, because they all the rest of them suck. Now getting to Bernie. Bernie won very well in Wisconsin. Kudos, very good race. We go on to New York. Hillary, even though he won and won convincingly, let's remember a couple things. As Bernie had pointed out, he's won 7 of the last 8 primaries or delegates. So he's won Wisconsin, where even though he won, he didn't win that many delegates. He won in Utah, he won in Idaho, he won in Alaska, he won in Hawaii. Did he win in, what was the other one? I can't even remember. But he's won a lot of them. And some of those states, they're Republican anyway, and he'll never win them in the general anyway right now. So he's caught up a couple on the delegates, but in Wisconsin, he won the vast majority of the votes. And remember, Wisconsin is a very, very, very white state outside of the general Milwaukee area. Extremely white. Just like Iowa, outside of that Milwaukee area. And that's where Sanders has done well. That's why he's done well in Idaho, in Utah, and Alaska. Did he win Washington? He's done well in those areas. But now we're coming up to 4 or 5 primaries. The next one is New York. Then I think it's Maryland, Pennsylvania, and then New Jersey and California. So we got 5 very diverse states. A large population, a black population, large Latino population, much, much more diverse than Wisconsin. But does Bernie have the momentum? Does he have the big mo? Is he going to take it to Hillary? We'll have to see. Hillary has to regroup. She has to come out. She's going to come out fighting. Is it something that the voters can see? Right now, the polling is showing, of course, it's right now. We're still technically 2 weeks from New York. And God, it's cold here where I'm living, and it's June. It's going to be June before California, so that's a long ways away. But will she come out fighting? Will she come out and convince the voters that she is still the one? Now, I've said before, even though her delegate count is still way ahead, knocks Bernie out in New York, possibly it could be all over. But his win here guarantees him he'll go through California. And here's the thing. We all know that any Democrat should beat any of the Republicans handily in the actual election. But is what they are doing right now, especially a little bit on Bernie's part, tearing into Hillary as the front runner, personal attacks, big personal attacks by his campaign staff and all of his media followers who are talking about Hillary being indicted, just picking up the right-wing meme on that. Is that going to play in to Bernie to be the nominee? He still has a long way to go. One other thing about Bernie, he made some comments to, I think it was the New York Daily News or New York Post, showing that he really didn't know much about how to regulate the banks, what might be done to regulate them. I've seen some back and forth, both positive and negative on all of this, but let's get something clear. Bernie's been railing about this for a long time. People have been saying, he's been saying this stuff forever, that you could go back 30 years and he's talking about that. And let's just say that all of that is true. Then he should know the mechanisms that would be used to enforce, to break up the big banks. how it would be done. Yes, it is a little bit of minutia, but as president, as someone who wants to be president, he should know the laws. He should know that's how they're going to break up, because he's just throwing out these vague concepts that we got to break up the big banks, but he doesn't have a plan as to actually how it's going to do it, because when he was asked how he was going to do it, he really didn't even know how they were structured or who regulated them in such a way that they could be broken up, and that what types of issues would be brought up if they were to be broken up. Now, Hillary has basically said we have to create more laws or enforce existing laws to go after these big banks. But it seems as if her breadth of knowledge of what would be good to do to monitor the big banks, enforce types of things against the big banks, penalties against the big banks, increase their reserves, that type of thing. She seems to have a much greater breadth of knowledge on this than Bernie does. And Bernie's been the one that's been touting about this thing for the last 30 years or so. Sign off right now. Again, Tom Dillon, the Lifetime Liberal, on Facebook under The Lifetime Liberal. One word. All comments, both positive and negative, greatly appreciated.